Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive.
Yeah.
And, this time of year, I think we all start kind of thinking about the same thing.
Right.
Priorities, setting goals, all that good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So
New year, new me, as they say.
exactly. New year, new me. But the source we're looking at today is saying, maybe ditch that whole waiting for the new year thing. What if we just got started now?
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, the piece even calls. That whole new year, me feeling an illusion, like is there something we're missing, when we get so caught up in the January 1st hype.
Well, I think one thing we often forget is that time, it's not really divided up into these neat little boxes,
Right?
Like we like to think of January as this completely blank slate.
Yeah.
But all of those projects and goals that we were working on in December,
Right.
those don't just magically disappear at
I
midnight.
just go poof. No, they don't. And I think this quote from the source really sums it up well. It says, "There's never a better time to make adjustments than the beginning of a new year. Somehow it feels like an opportunity to start all over again. But let's be honest, it's the illusion of times and seasons that makes us think this way." I mean, how often have you waited for the perfect moment to start something, only to realize that perfect moment never actually arrives?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Ugh.
I'm definitely guilty of that. So the source lays out these three approaches to tackling priorities. There's continue the unfinished, identify areas to restart, and initiate new endeavors.
All good options.
Right. But I think continue the unfinished really stood out to me. Like, what's the actual benefit of just carrying that momentum into the new year instead of hitting pause?
Well, you could think of it like a train leaving the station.
Okay.
Takes a lot of energy to get it moving, but once it's going, much easier to keep it rolling.
Right.
If you stop even for a short time, you lose that momentum. And starting new things in January can feel so overwhelming because you're essentially starting from scratch.
Yeah.
But if you're already working on something, you can actually leverage that existing energy and make even more progress.
So continuing those unfinished projects can actually make things easier down the line.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Okay.
But here's where the source really throws a curveball. It suggests tackling those mundane, everyday tasks.
Immediately, not in January. Now, I am a notorious procrastinator, so I've got to ask, is there a secret to motivating yourself to do those less exciting tasks?
I think the key is to understand that. By tackling those less glamorous tasks right away,
Yeah.
you actually free up mental space for more creative and enjoyable work later on.
Okay.
It's like clearing your desk before starting a new project.
Yeah.
And the source makes this really interesting point that even if you're not consciously aware of it, those everyday tasks, they can really weigh on your mind.
Really?
Yeah, and getting them out of the way, it creates this sense of mental clarity.
You feel less overwhelmed, more focused on the things that truly matter.
I could see how that mental breathing room would be crucial. Now, the source also mentions identify areas to restart as a key approach. What does that even entail? And how does it differ from simply continuing something unfinished?
Restarting is more about taking a fresh look at projects or habits that have completely stalled.
Okay.
It might be something you abandoned months ago or something you've been doing half-heartedly.
Yeah.
But the key here is to really assess why it stalled in the first place and see if it's even worth picking back up, maybe with a new approach or a new mindset.
Interesting.
It's like rebooting your computer.
Okay.
Sometimes a fresh start can help things run more smoothly.
So it's not about blindly picking up where you left off,
Mm.
but about consciously choosing what deserves a second chance.
Exactly.
That's a great distinction.
And this leads us perfectly to the third approach, initiate new endeavors.
Okay.
This is where you can let your imagination run wild.
Oh, I like that.
What are those dreams you've been putting off? Yeah.
What skills do you want to develop?
Mm.
Now, January might feel like the traditional time for new beginnings,
Right.
but the source really encourages us to start brainstorming and planning those
Yeah.
new endeavors now.
Right now.
Yes, so that by the time January rolls around, you're ready to hit the ground running.
I love that. And finally, the source ties all of this together by talking about redefining priorities and making progress every day. Can you unpack that for our listeners? What does it actually mean to redefine priorities, and how does daily progress fit into that?
But I think redefining priorities is really about taking a step back
Okay.
and honestly assessing
Yeah.
what matters most to you.
Makes sense.
It's about aligning your actions with your values and goals,
Right.
rather than just going through the motions and daily progress, even in small increments, is the key to actually achieving those redefined priorities.
I see.
It's not about making these massive leaps overnight, but about building a consistent habit of moving forward. That's a really powerful message. So as we wrap up today, is there one key takeaway you'd like our listeners to remember?
I'd say the biggest takeaway is this. Meaningful change. It's not bound by the calendar.
Mhm.
It's about making conscious choices and taking consistent action.
Yeah,
So I'd challenge everyone listening to think about this. What's one small step you can take today to move towards a goal, no matter how small?
yeah.
That action will build momentum, and it will make a difference in the long run.
Amazing advice. Thank you so much for this insightful deep dive.
Of course, it was my pleasure.
We'd love to hear your thoughts, so share what you're working on using hashtag the deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring. We'll see you all soon.